Think about the last election you saw. The debates, the ads, the headlines. Now imagine if tomorrow, one of the candidates was arrested, put on trial by a jury of 500 random citizens, and executed. Not for corruption or treason, but for asking too many questions. You'd call it a dictatorship, a travesty. Yet this exact thing happened in the civilization we credit with inventing democracy itself. Athens didn't just execute a man in 399 BC, it executed its conscience. And the reason why reveals a terrifying flaw in democracy that we're still pretending doesn't exist. First, we need to understand what Athens was. This wasn't just a city, it was an experiment. For the first time in human history, power wasn't determined by birth or wealth or divine right. It was determined by lot, random selection. Every year, 500 citizens were chosen by lottery to serve in the boule, the governing council. The military generals were elected. Even most legal cases were decided by juries of 201 or 501 citizens, chosen by lot from volunteers. It was radical, it was messy, and for about 80 years it worked spectacularly. This system produced the plays of Sophocles, the history of Thucydides, the architecture of the Parthenon. Athens became an empire, the school of Hellas. But every system has its blind spots, and Athens' blind spot was that it assumed every citizen was equally qualified to make every decision. Into this confident, thriving democracy walks a strange man. He's not handsome, bulging eyes, a snub nose, always barefoot. He's not rich, he's a stonemason by trade, but he has a habit that will make him both famous and fatally dangerous. He asks questions. Not just any questions. He stands in the marketplace and asks successful generals, "What is courage?" He asks wealthy politicians, "What is justice?" He asks respected poets, "What is beauty?" And when they give their answers, he asks another question, and another, until their confident answers unravel into confusion. He calls this method elenpis, a cross-examination. His goal isn't to teach answers, but to expose ignorance, to show that the people running the city don't actually understand the virtues they claim to embody. He compares himself to a gadfly, a stinging insect sent by the gods to annoy the lazy horse that is Athens, to keep it awake and thinking. It's a brilliant metaphor, but ask any farmer, what do you do with a fly that won't stop buzzing? Socrates' critique of democracy is captured perfectly in a conversation with his friend Adeimantus, recorded by Plato. He asks a simple question. Imagine we're setting sail on a dangerous voyage. Who should choose the captain? Should it be everyone on the ship, regardless of whether they know anything about navigation? Or should it be the people who actually understand seafaring, who can read the stars, predict the weather, plot a course? The answer seems obvious. You want experts. But then Socrates makes the devastating connection. So why do we think that every citizen, regardless of education or wisdom, should be fit to vote on who leads the city? A city navigating the storms of war, diplomacy, and justice is infinitely more complex than a ship. Here's the crucial distinction Socrates makes, one we've completely forgotten today. He wasn't against democracy itself, he was against uneducated democracy. He believed in what we might call an intellectual democracy. In his ideal system, voting wouldn't be a birthright, it would be a skill you'd have to demonstrate through rigorous education in logic, ethics, and civic virtue. Think of it like a driver's license. We don't let anyone drive just because they're 16, they have to prove they know the rules of the road. Socrates saw Athenian democracy as handing the keys of the state to people who'd never taken a driving lesson, and he was about to witness the catastrophic crash. Democracy has a fatal weakness. It responds to what people want, not necessarily what they need. Socrates illustrates this with another analogy. Imagine an election between two candidates, One is like a doctor, the other like a candy shop owner. The doctor says, "You're sick, you need medicine, a strict diet, exercise. It will be hard, but you'll be healthier." The candy shop owner says, "Forget that guy, have whatever you want, sweets every day, feasts and pleasures." Who wins? In a democracy where votes aren't tied to wisdom, the candy shop owner wins every time. And Athens was about to meet its sweetest, most disastrous candy salesman. Enter Alcibiades. If Athens had celebrities, he'd be the Kardashian, the Elon Musk, and a rock star rolled into one. Incredibly wealthy, devastatingly handsome, charismatic beyond measure. And he was Socrates' most famous student. Alcibiades learned all of Socrates' rhetorical skills, how to ask probing questions, how to dismantle arguments, how to persuade, but none of his ethics. He used these tools for pure ambition. In 415 BC, he stood before the Athenian assembly and made a bold proposal: invade Sicily, conquer Syracuse, build an empire that would dwarf even Persia. The promises were sweet: endless wealth, glory, power. The risks? Downplayed. The logistics? Hand-waved. The people, intoxicated by his charisma, voted yes. The Sicilian expedition was launched. It was a catastrophe. The fleet was destroyed. Thousands of Athenians died or were enslaved. And Alcibiades? Right before the expedition launched, statues of Hermes throughout Athens were mysteriously vandalized. Alcibiades was accused. Rather than face trial, he did the unthinkable. He defected to Sparta, Athens' mortal enemy. Worse, he gave Sparta military advice on how to defeat Athens. The student of Athenian democracy was now teaching its enemies how to destroy it. And the public made a devastating connection. Who taught Alcibiades to think? Who taught him rhetoric? Socrates. The war dragged on for 27 years. Athens lost. The victorious Spartans installed a puppet government, the 30 Tyrants. For 8 months in 404 BC, these men executed about 5% of Athens' population, anyone suspected of democratic sympathies. Their leader was Chrysis. And here's the second devastating connection. Chrysis was also a student of Socrates. In fact, he was one of Socrates' earliest and most devoted followers. So now the public narrative solidified. Socrates wasn't just an annoying philosopher, he was a factory producing traitors. First, Alcibiades betrays Athens to Sparta. Then Chrysis murders Athenians for Sparta. Both were his students. The pattern was too clear to ignore. In 399 BC, 3 citizens brought formal charges against the 70-year-old Socrates. 1. Corrupting the youth. 2. Impiety, not believing in the city's gods and introducing new divinities. The prosecutor was Meletus, a poet. Backing him were Anytus, a powerful politician whose son had become one of Socrates' disciples and rejected the family business, and Lycon, a rhetorician. This wasn't just a legal case, it was a cultural backlash. The trial was held before a jury of 501 citizens chosen by lot. There were no judges, no lawyers in the modern sense. Each side spoke for a fixed time, then the jury voted. Simple majority. Socrates could have saved himself. The custom was for defendants to beg for mercy, bring their weeping children before the jury, promise to stop their behavior. Instead, Socrates gave perhaps the most arrogant defense in legal history. He told the jury, "You should be grateful to me. I'm doing you a favor." He compared himself to a horsefly stinging a lazy horse, Athens. "If you kill me," he said, "you won't easily find another like me." He even proposed his own punishment. Instead of exile or a fine, the city should reward him with free meals for life at the Prytaneum, the honor given to Olympic champions and war heroes. It was the philosophical equivalent of flipping the table over. The jury voted, 280 for guilty, 221 for not guilty. He lost by just 30 votes.
If 30 people had changed their minds, he would have walked free. Then came the sentencing phase. The prosecution proposed death. Socrates could still have proposed exile. Many expected him to. Instead, he offered to pay a fine of 30 minas, with his rich friends helping. It was too little, too late. Insulted by his entire performance, the jury voted for death by a larger margin than they'd voted for guilt. Socrates spent 30 days in prison awaiting execution. His rich friend Crito bribed the guards. "Escape to Thessaly," he begged. "Live out your years in peace." Socrates refused.